Good morning, everyone. I'm not James Buchanan, in case you didn't notice. So Reverend James is visiting KK, and they're having a day together, and I hope she's piled up in his lap watching today and seeing all of us. And so I'm Ann Sadovksy Sitzman, and I will just say welcome to all of you. James doesn't like for us to bring notes to the stage, so I'm pretty good at hiding mine. Just thought I'd mention that. So I don't know if you saw the title today, but what happens to us when it feels like our entire world is in turmoil? And in case it's not clear to you what's happening to us today, I'll just share a few headlines with you. As Russia forces close in on Mariupol, a steel factory is at the center of the conflict. We know all about that one, okay? And then I have a few others. Ukrainian officials say that they have identified mass graves outside the city of Mariupol, which they say adds to mounting proof of Russian war crimes against Ukrainian civilians. Another topic. Friday was Earth Day, and there's never been a more powerful moment to stand up for the future of our planet. Here's another. Our planet is reaching a terrible tipping point. From doubling down on fossil fuels to ramping up plastic pollution, corporations are still prioritizing profits over our Earth and destroying the fragile ecosystems that sustain us. You want to hear a little bit more? No? Okay. Just hang in. The world faces a climate and biodiversity crisis. Between 1/3 and 1/2 of all species could be at risk of extinction with the end of this century. If you weren't depressed when you got here, hang in. Bees play a crucial role in the web of life that sustains us and all species. Their decline puts us all at risk, and we need to act to save them today. And I know that you know that. Without the pollinators, we're going to run out of food, right? Okay. Wildfires have destroyed thousands of homes and forests across the western USA. The news begs people not to start a fire for any reason. Global warming, mass shootings, the cost of living escalating, out of control egos, and more. And then almost last, the sun throws out the strongest solar flare in years, prompting warning over possible future danger. And last, COVID deaths. In the United States, since it began, 990,208 people. Globally, 6,207,815 people. Enough already. Enough already, right? So, I reached out to some of the great minds that I know. Steve and Bo, the Dolly Mamas, Deb, Reverend James. And so I have some wonderful, I think, that will help lift you back up after I just pushed you down so far. So from Dr. Thurman Fleet in Concept Therapy, as long as we allow people and things to influence us to a spirit of fear, then chaos, confusion, and destruction will be rampant in the world. But when we radiate a spirit of faith, love, courage, when we embody in our souls all the noble attributes that lift humanity above the plane of selfishness and desire, when we keep our faces turned toward the sunshine, then the shadows will fall behind us. Isn't that lovely? He went on to say, no circumstance justifies a disturbed attitude. Now, the language is like, has anybody ever read Edgar Cayce? Anything that his words are, sometimes I read it and go, what? What did he mean? What did he say? So hopefully this will be a little bit clearer. An attitude of gratitude and faith, knowing the universe is ruled by divine law and order, will help us put the current circumstances into perspective. Now, what does that mean? That we have to stay in gratitude and in faith. Randy and I pray before we eat dinner at night. And I know that's kind of gone out of style. We pray in a restaurant when we all go to lunch together. But Randy and I hold hands, and he doesn't like to pray, I do. But he listens, okay. But we hold hands, and I always start with, Father, we come to you this moment in gratitude. So grateful for the love we share, for our home, for our fur babies, for our church, for all of you. So gratitude is a big part of our lives, and that's so important. Let me go on. Few of us are called to take up arms and defend Ukraine, but we can send money, prayers, and support. There's not much a single one of us, not a single one of us, can do to combat inflation and climate change or bigotry, but each of us is doing what we can do to make a difference. So I'm going to really focus on our thoughts, our prayers, our minds, and then we're going to talk about the unity principles to get us to that place. So life in the world has always been in turmoil. When you read the history of mankind, the history of the beginning of this planet, there's always been turmoil. But we create turmoil within ourselves. Something that we have to recognize. When our guts are grinding and we're thinking we're not going to make it through this day, we have to look within ourselves, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So here are a few of my tips. Start your day with just 10 minutes of quiet. Before you get up and get out of the bed, 10 minutes of quiet, peaceful thought, and sending out love to the world. Maybe do a little stretching before you get up, and breathing deeply, and being grateful for your body. Most of us are very critical of our bodies. We want to be thinner, we want to gain some weight. I've never in my life wanted to gain some weight. But you know, we stand in front of the mirror and go, I look so fat, or I'm looking so old, or my hair looks so tacky today. And we just beat ourselves up really good to start our day. So we're going to look at changing those habits. Then if you can take the time, set the alarm, get up earlier, do a 15-minute guided meditation. And you can just start with these. If this is all you do, just do this. May you be happy, may you be healthy, and may you be at peace. Just every morning, memorize those words. I'd be happy to send them to anybody that wants them. Pretty simple. May I be happy, may I be healthy, may I be at peace, and I pray that for all that I know. So I think of this with everybody I know and love in mind. So now, here's one that's a little bit tougher. Randy and I are sort of addicted to the television. That's after we've been addicted to the computer all day. Then we turn to the television in the evenings, and we watch way too much news. So this is going to be my new goal. I'm going to stop watching the news during the day because it does make my guts grind, and it takes me to a negative place to watch it. You know, the news is on at 9, it's on at 11, it's on at 12, it's on at 2 in the afternoon. We get the 4 o'clock news. Little to none of it is good news right now, just like that stuff, all right? So I'm going to suggest to my husband, standing in the back of the room, that we only watch the news like between 5 and 6, and maybe 8 to 9, so that it's off of our no, that's not right in a row. Yeah, a little space in between. But you know, I think when we watch the 10 o'clock news, we go to sleep with our guts grinding, or we can't go to sleep. So something for us to think about is turning off the television some of the time. And then I want to encourage you to really go in deeply inside and ask yourself, what can I do to help this situation? What can I do? Most of us have the ability, if it's only $5. Randy and I, and a lot of people in this room, are animal lovers. And most of you are animal lovers. And I see that the animals in Ukraine are starving to death because their persons have gone and they couldn't. But there are groups over there who are asking for money for food. And if it's $5 or $10, whatever we can do to help with feeding the animals, that's important to us, okay? Contribute some time to volunteering. That is near and dear to my heart because I am the volunteer coordinator, next desk, team leader, all that. And that desk is right outside the door with a big red next hanging above it. And if your heart leads you to say, what can I do? How can I serve? Stop by and see me. Stop by and we'll talk about all the opportunities that we have. So the other thing we can do is send loving thoughts to the earth and to all the people. Now, this may surprise you. I want to recommend that you pray for Putin. And my prayer for Putin is that his heart softens so that he will end this war. That his heart will soften. You have to wonder about what kind of life he has had to be this cruel. So I'm encouraging you to add Putin to your prayers. Send loving thoughts to the earth, the world, and all the people. Turn the negative around by staying in gratitude. Be thankful for the wind and the blue sky and the ocean and the breezes that have been blowing our trees and for the rain that's coming. We're in a drought situation here, so be grateful for the rain and not complain about it. It's hard not to when you have to be outside. Be thankful for the birds in the trees. And when you get a little time, look out these windows all along and see the lake, and you see the turtles and the ducks and the geese that live right outside these windows. And be grateful for them and send them love. Obviously, for our pets, for our family, our friends, and for our health. If you were able to get up today and get your britches on, and get ready and drive here or be driven here, you have a lot to be grateful for, that we are out and about and we are with loving people. Be thankful for our breath and realize that it is the breath of God that comes through us that sustains us. So there are people, and maybe even some in this room, where breathing is a challenge, maybe with certain asthma or different things. Be grateful for the breath that you do breathe. I want to recommend that you talk to yourself the way you do to your animals. You would never look at this baby dog and say, you're not pretty, you need a bath. Well, maybe you say you need a bath. Okay. You need a new hairdo, you're overweight, you're too skinny. We look at our fur babies, and when you love them like Bo and Stephen and Randy and I and BJ love your animals, most of the people here do. How many people have an animal in your home? Well, that's 95% of the room. Thank you. So, but just think about, say, I love you, you fill me with joy, you are so much fun. You're so pretty. You're so precious. More. Trust me, if you talk to yourself like you do your animals, you will have a much better day instead of the way we usually do, okay? So since I do a lot, I talk to myself a lot, not out loud, because I'm afraid Randy would leave me if I start having full conversations with myself, okay? But because I self-talk, I'm really working on making it positive. Everything that comes out of my mouth to be positive. Complimenting others, being positive and brightening their days. When you can say, love the flowered jacket. Carla, what a voice, what a voice. Wait till you, yes, what a voice from our Carla. Bob in the band. Bob, we love you. Thank you. We love you, all right? So get in the habit of spreading good words and good feelings in others. So just know that everything has a life on this earth, and the moving of this earthly life into spiritual realm is blissful as we keep working ourselves further and further along the path of living the lives that God built us to live, all right? So Eckhart Tolle, now in our bookstore I think we've said Tolle, and I think when Alexis teaches she may say that, but I Googled it. And Eckhart Tolle, T-O-L-L-E, teaches us to stay in the present because the present is all we actually have. You can't go back and fix yesterday. We have no clue what's going to be happening tomorrow. So being focused on how are you living and what are you saying to yourself today is absolutely critically important. He said we can create our future by surrounding ourselves with loving, kind, spiritual people, taking charge of our finances, releasing people that we allow to create turmoil and strife in our lives. I'm not going to ask you to raise hands. I will tell you my quick story. I have 6 grandchildren and 6 great-grandchildren, 2 sons who are about my age now. And both are older than my husband. That's a true story, okay? It's a long story, but it's a true story, okay? So, of my grandchildren, I have 6. I have 2 grandsons that I have had to remove from my life. I didn't shoot them. They're still alive. When I say I removed them, I just removed them from my life. Some of you know one of them, and they both have addiction issues, and they were precious baby boys, and that's what I hold on to because they are not happy, healthy human beings today. And so there comes a time that if I hadn't had the courage to say, you're not welcome in my home anymore, and I'm not going to take your calls anymore, and it was that bad, okay? If I hadn't said it, Randy would have. Because when you deal with that kind of turmoil, what we let happen to ourselves is I ended up in bed for 5 days, could hardly raise my head from going through those experiences. So sometimes you have to let people go. But then what we're trying to do is create a peaceful environment for ourselves so that we live in peace. So releasing those who don't truly love you and truly support you sometimes has to happen. So what happens to us when life is in turmoil? We become anxious, fearful. We can't think clearly. We don't see a positive path forward because we're wallowing in it. You ever wallowed in it? Yeah, me too, all right? So stop, breathe, and say, I am grateful. Stop, take a deep breath. Ready? Let's do it with me. Okay. I'm going to talk to you about that deep breath when I do the meditation. Know that turmoil is temporary. If you look back in the history of this planet, humankind has lived through so many devastating things. So quiet your mind, have a resolution that will easily present itself. So think of life like a wave in the ocean. It goes up and it comes down. But it goes up again and then it drops back down. It's not always going to be up here, and the good news is it's not always going to be down there. So change your words to I am peace with what is. Turn to your friends for support and prayers. I pulled a lot of quotes, some of which are from the Dalai Mamas. Some of you know the Dalai Mamas formed here in this church. It's a 7-woman prayer group. It's closed. It's only the 7 of us because we have bonded and kept it that way. And for 20 plus years, we have been, people call on us from all over the United States for prayer. And we'd love to take credit, but we get calls that said, you prayed for the wildfires to end, and they did in our neighborhood. Or you prayed for the rain, or you prayed for my child, or you prayed for healing. And so we do. We pray together, and we do a Zoom call every Saturday and talk about who we're praying for and what we're doing. And we go to lunch together occasionally, and we have a great time, and we're not boring. We're not little old prayer ladies that don't have any fun, because, honey, we have fun. We tell jokes, and we laugh, and we have a great time. But these are quotes for trusting in God during difficult times. Maybe they will encourage you as they do me, because I've kept these taped inside my door in the cabinet in the bathroom. So every time I open it to get hairspray, I read this. That means I spend a lot of time in the cabinet, okay? Okay. We can make our plans, but the Lord determines our steps, Proverbs 16. Worry is blind and cannot discern the future, but God sees the end from the beginning. In every difficulty, He has His way prepared to bring relief. That's from Ellen White. Never be afraid to trust an unknown future, because you have a known God, and that is Corrie ten Boom. Don't ask God to guide your steps if you're not willing to move your feet. I'm going to talk more about that in a minute. From Anne Frank, the best remedy for those who are afraid, lonely, or unhappy and scared to go outside, but to go outside somewhere where they can be quiet, alone with the heavens, nature, and God, because only then does one feel that all is as it should be. So nature, looking up at the stars, looking at the full moon, walking in the grass, I highly recommend it. I know it sounds woo-woo. Take your shoes off and walk in your yard and feel the earth beneath your feet. Faith talks in the language of God. Doubt talks in the language of man. E.W. Kenyon. Faith isn't faith until it's all you're holding on to. Faith is the vision of the heart. It sees God in the dark as well as the day. We know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to His purpose for them, and that is from Romans, okay? So, because I love to talk about myself, I'm going to talk about my life from birth to now. Just a few things. I was born at home. Long time ago, women don't usually have babies at home anymore unless they have a doula or something. My mother was picking up pecans in the backyard of my grandparents' home. She was 9 months pregnant, first child, and she felt a couple of little pains. And all of a sudden, she felt a gush. She went through the door, and I was born in the kitchen floor. She loved until the day she left this planet. She loved to tell me about the immediacy. She said, "You were born running and you've never stopped." Okay. My father went to war in World War II. Remember that we survived World War I and we survived World War II. I ended up living with my grandparents. When I was born, my grandfather, they wrapped me in a blanket, and he sat in front of the fireplace and rocked me all night long, and it formed a bond that is never ended for me, even though he's gone. I walked to school, and my grandfather walked to work. I grew up in McKinney, Texas. It wasn't like next door to school. It took us 25 minutes to walk to school, and Papa 35 minutes to walk downtown to his office. I started school at the age of 5. That's different from most today. We hid under our desks when the alarm went off because the Russians were coming. Seriously. That was the drill. The Russians are coming, the Russians are coming, get under your desk. Talk about instilling fear in children, okay? There was no air conditioning, but we had an attic fan. Anybody, I'm not going to ask if you remembered, it would show your age. Polio was the biggest health fear when I was a child. I don't want to get political. I don't want to have any conversation about the vaccines. I just want to say this. You know why you don't hear about polio anymore? Because we got the shot. We got the shot. And it's gone from our world. Our teachers wrote on chalkboards with chalk. Mr. Press was my math teacher. We had twin boys in our class, and they were very rambunctious in the 8th grade or whatever. And one day, Mr. Press lost his temper, picked up the eraser from the chalkboard, and threw and hit the twins right there in the head. Just bounced off of both of them, okay? I don't think that would be happening today. I hope not, okay? We didn't back then hear about stranger danger like we teach our children today. Maybe we should have, but we didn't hear the stories of children being taken and, stranger danger. Milk was delivered to the door. Our butter lady, Mrs. Rogers, lived out in the country, and she grew vegetables and she made butter from scratch, and she delivered to our home once a week. We were sort of privileged people that she would bring it to us. There was an ice house where when we were having company, Papa Brown and I would ride with him, would go and buy big squares of ice that we could chop up, and we made homemade ice cream and put the ice all around it, and we did this. Some of you are shaking your heads, you're telling your age, okay? My grandmother sewed 75% of our clothes. We don't sew like that anymore, but I wore penny loafers and bobby socks to school. I wouldn't be caught dead now in bobby socks. Girls almost never wore pants. We wore skirts. And sometimes when the poodle skirt came into be, those of you who are young have no clue what I'm talking about, but it was a big full skirt, and it always had a poodle little fuzzy thing sewed on the skirt, and we wore crinolines under them. For those of you who don't know, the skirt stood out like this. And we could almost not get in our desks the days that we wore our poodle skirts to school. What was so bad is that we wore the bobby socks and loafers with the poodle skirts. Not very cute, okay. DDT was used for insect control when I was growing up. And now we've learned very clearly that we almost killed the planet with DDT. We've gotten better and better and better. We were in segregated schools. In segregated schools in my lifetime. I truly thought that would be completely over and that we would all embrace one another in my lifetime. But we've made some big strides. We've come a long way, and I am so grateful for that. Penicillin was first discovered and used in 1942. And the point of all that is, here we are. Here we are. We've survived. So if you have no control over anything in your life, or the virus, let it go and be at peace. If you stay caught up in worrying, you're immobilized in the presence. It's almost like you get so uptight and upset you can hardly put one foot in front of the other. Raise your consciousness. You create your reality. That's one of the hardest lessons I've ever learned, and it's so true, and I have no doubt. We create our own reality. Change your thoughts, change your life, be at peace. Do you want to live in a friendly or a hostile universe? Your choice, because we create it. What we focus on, we get. All of those came from Wayne Dyer, Maya Angelou, and Oprah, some of the great minds of our lifetime. And so, several years ago, my granddaughter said, "Gran, do you consider yourself wise?" And I said, "I'm en route. I'm on my way," okay? So here's some of the things I've shared with some of you before. When the singles class was meeting, I developed a friend from this exact thing. To get a friend, you need to be a friend. To find love, you have to be love. And I said to the singles group, and the man still comes to church once in a while, and he quotes it to me, and that was 25 or 30 years ago. Still quotes it to me. You have to be what you want in the other person. Let that weigh on you. So, know and trust that whatever is going on in our world today, this too will pass. Jen, is the second slide there? Yes. Looking behind, I'm filled with gratitude. Looking forward, I'm filled with vision. Looking upward, I'm filled with strength. And looking within, I discover peace. And that is truly an Apache prayer, which I thought was so beautiful. All of that leads me to something very simple that you are very familiar with, and that is the 5 unity principles. If you're new to unity, hear these words. When you take the class today, the class What is Unity is right after church today. It is the only requirement that unity gives you to be a member of the church. You don't have to do anything else. You don't have to be able to sing in the choir, but we want you to. You don't have to be able to tap dance on stage. All we want you to do is know and understand unity and the unity principles. And so here they are, and they're very clear. I'm reading them even though you can see them for the folks at home. Number 1, God is spirit, the source of all creation, love and being, perfect unity in all existence. There is no other enduring power, none other. Source, spirit, love is presence everywhere and is all that is. So the first one is God is, and we'll talk more about that in just a second. I'll help you understand these quicker. Number 2, I am a spiritual being. God is, I am. I'm created with the divine spark living within me. All of creation is inherently good. Those grandsons that I can love but keep my distance, inherently good, each and every one of us. I create my own life experiences through my way of thinking. I use affirmative prayer. We don't beg God in unity, and I think that's so important for all of us to know. We affirm that God loves us and that all is well and that everything's going to work out. So we use that as an affirmation. And so I did number 3. Our own life experiences come from our thinking. Number 4, affirmative prayer. Number 5, as I use these principles in my life, I demonstrate them because I want to be a blessing to the world. So, the next slide, Jen. To make it simple, the unity principles, God is. Have no doubt, God is. I am. We are. We are here. We are part of the plan. I think. I use what God gave me to make decisions, to make plans, and to work out things. And I pray, And I pray affirmatively. I don't say, dear God, please help me. I say, thank you for keeping me in your heart and your mind and for helping me get through my day every day. Thank you. I am affirming your presence. And then number 5, as I use these principles, I demonstrate them. Number 5 is move your feet. Take action. Do something. If it's praying, if it's going to groups where you discuss, and you get a new book and read it. While you pray, you move your feet. So with all of that, I'm going to ask you to go into meditation with me. I'm going to ask you to please uncross your legs. You can rest your hands on your legs or just gently, just let your arms and shoulders relax. Okay. Both feet on the floor. If you feel your tongue pushing up into the top of your mouth, you have brought stress in with you today. Let your tongue relax. If your shoulders are pushing up your ears, that's that hunch that we get in when we're stressed. Breathe and focus on my words, eyes closed and quiet. To the small, to the star counters, to the cloud watchers, to the inspired, to the birds, to everyone who's ever cried, to everyone who's ever been tried, to those who pull themselves up off the floor, to those who can still find love in their hearts after everything, to those who paint the world each day with the colors of their feelings, to those who hope, to you. Jesus said, peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. Not as the world gives, do I give to you. Let your hearts not be troubled, neither let them be afraid. Jesus gave the disciples the promise of God to hold on to. Similarly, we face difficulties in our lives, but be encouraged to know, let not your hearts be troubled. Still applies to us. We already have the God Spirit within us, and His presence provides peace in the midst of both joy and hardship. The promises given to the disciples will stand for us today and now. May the God of hope fill you with all joy, peace, and believing, so that by power you may abound in hope. And so it is. Amen.